You know, you have a lot more power than you probably realize. You have the power to make or break the relationship that you have with the people that you care about the most. And in fact, today we're going to be talking about how then to make it, not break it, with your mind. This is part 4 of our series, Winning the War in Your Mind, joined by Nancy Castile. My name is Gabe Kolstad, and we're going to talk a little bit about the in-depth kind of nitty-gritty of how our mind works, how we can take control of it, and then, of course, the big deal today, how that impacts the relationships that we have with our loved ones and Absolutely. How we can make the most of it. So, Nancy, thanks for joining me again.
Hi, Gabe.
And I
nice
would love to hear
you.
what you have to say about this topic.
Well, quite a bit, I guess. Thinking about the journey we've had over the last 3 podcasts, this being the 4th in our series of 4. If you haven't had a chance to listen, go back and listen to each of them because, and start with number 1, because it really is trying to set a stage, kind of looking at how our brains and bodies work, how we then bring that energy and information flow within us to the between us with others. And so we're going to focus on that between us today quite a bit. But we can't, it's not devoid of the within us because we are present in all of those relationships, and really thinking about how we bring I guess I'd say like our best selves into
That's good.
relationship.
Yeah. That's always the goal, I think.
I think it is,
Yeah.
But
it sure takes some intentionality.
I mean, let's think about relationship. Yeah. If we start with our relationship with Christ, with God, if we're called to be more Christ-like, Gabe, because of obviously in the expert phase you would be the expert in this regard. Can you define what it means to live more Christ-like?
Sure. I mean, I think that's a loaded question in some ways because, a lot of people study that question their whole lives and feel like they're just scratching the surface.
So
but
not to put you on the spot.
No, but I mean, I think it just to break it down super simply, like to live more like Christ would probably be to act and think like Jesus, right? Or maybe reverse that, to think and then act like Jesus. And I think a lot of people struggle with the think part. We get the act part because we're like, we should mimic what Jesus did. Right. But when it comes to think like Jesus, I think sometimes we don't see ourselves having that kind of agency over our own thoughts.
Absolutely.
And I think that Scripture really challenges that,
Yes.
And when you read the New Testament, you realize part of being Christ-like is taking responsibility for your thoughts, which lead to your actions. So that's probably for me, those 2 things, think and act like Jesus.
Absolutely. And in doing that, it is like you said, it's very loaded. But let's step back a little bit and just think about if we're talking about our day-to-day existence, we've been talking about, the title of your series this month has been Winning the War in Your Mind.
Yeah.
So, really, how we perceive things defines whether we will win the war in our mind, right? Because if we are perceiving, the perception is, we all have a perception. We come into something, whether it's a conversation, it's anything. We have our own perception. It's how we are seeing it, but we're not seeing it just with our eyes. We're seeing it with our past experiences. We're seeing it with all of our being. And sometimes we're seeing it with a lot of feeling that may have nothing to do with the present moment.
Sure.
And so we really have to discern all of that or filter it, I guess, and get down to the nitty gritty. What am I actually seeing? Like, am I perceiving things through a lens that is productive or unproductive, fair or unfair to the person I'm interacting with? Does that make any sense? Yeah. And so it's funny because I really think we have to keep in mind that we want to decide how we're going to look at something and not just have it be a kind of like you were talking about before, not have it be reflexive where we feel like, oh, well, this is just where I go. Yeah. I always get anxious in these situations. I always do this, or, I'm, being that, tendency towards negative, that we can decide, if we understand that ourselves and our relationships with others are simply a matter. I mean, if you go to the brass tacks, it is energy and information flow within us and between us, which the cool thing about bringing it down to that simplicity is we can change it.
Yeah.
It isn't like it's predisposed. We don't perceive something a certain way because, well, that's what happened when I grew up. Or this is what happens because I have anxiety. This is, we can still make change in that.
But do you think, so I have two questions for you on that, because one is, you said we can decide how we want to look at things. Okay. So if we can decide how we want to look at things, that's good news. It's just that sometimes we're like, okay, so how should I look at it? Give us some guidance on that. And then secondly, don't you think that there is sometimes people are like, well, yeah, but that I am colored by my anxiety. I am colored by my past.
People can absolutely be colored by those things. And I want to differentiate kind of thought from feeling. And have us actually in our day-to-day existence really seek to differentiate that, seek to go, okay, I'm going to you have a thought that comes into your head and an emotion may be walking right next to it or maybe storming past it. And we want to think, okay, wait, halt a second. Let's think I want to be an observer of this thought and whether it needs to see the light of day at this moment. Yeah. It's sort of like, when you put items in your cart at Amazon or at some expensive, I don't know, clothing store or something where you go
BestBuy.com.
BestBuy.com. Okay. There you go. And you go, wait a second. I'm going to let that cart sit there. And then I'm going to come back. So I'm not impulse shopping. And so I want you to think of your thoughts in kind of the same way. We can put those thoughts in a cart, but they're not going out toward my husband or out to my child or to my friend or to the guy on the street or the driver next to me or whatever it is. They're in my cart for even if it's just a split second where we're then saying, okay, so should these be put into the save for later? Or do they, when I come back, do I go, no, you know what? That thought never should see the light of day. It was unproductive to start, and it would be very, very destructive to get out there. So, and again, some of these things, especially as you get good at it, they can become almost instantaneous. But in the beginning, as I've told you before, I like to create visual pictures. I want you to picture putting that into your Amazon cart or whatever and leave it there. Come back to it before you act so that you're not allowing the feeling that is behind it or walking with it to take over. Because sometimes those feelings are not going to actually represent what you really wanted to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the cart idea and the whole, I think we've talked a little bit in the series and even together about how important it is to have some sort of mechanism for evaluation or even just pausing to reflect before you act. So there's the thought.
It's a filter.
There's the feeling, there's the action, and somehow you gotta.
Well, you can also use the idea of, I want you to make sure, think about it. A lot of us use a water filter of some sort, whether it's in the fridge already and it just does it automatically, or you have the little pitcher that has the filter in it. You're filtering out impurities.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so let's filter through, because again, we're talking about, typically it's not about the guy in the car next to you who just made a stupid turn in front of you. I don't know, whatever it is. But typically we're talking about people that you quote unquote love. Yeah. And not even quote unquote. I mean, typically we're talking about all getting, when we get together at night, we're tired, we're hungry, whatever. But that we are actually being really true to the responsibility of that relationship. The choices that we've made, say between spouses, we've chosen to be with these people. And sometimes those are the people that we go, oh, well, hey, you're the person I feel most comfortable with. So I'm going to just let her rip. Well, hopefully not.
Yeah.
That's hopefully when we really go, oh my gosh, let's honor this choice that I made. And by being an observer, a perceiver of how I come across.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, it does. And I mean, that's kind of what I was getting to earlier. Is like, okay, so if we can kind of choose how we look at things, then what should we? And just thinking on the filter thing, we did discuss on Sunday with Pastor Steve Rady, Philippians chapter 4, which is a great filtering mechanism or kind of like framework to think about, well, then what's an appropriate, if you're going to go ahead and purchase that thing that's in your cart, in your thought cart, well, here's something. It says in Philippians 4:8, it says, now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing, fix your thoughts on what is true. It says what's true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. I mean, so then it automatically rules out a lot of thoughts where it might be vengeance and it might be hate and it might be, and all those things where we can, or, selfishness or jealousy or all those things we can go like, okay, either save for later so that I can evaluate this more, or that's not a good idea.
Exactly.
But I think that's such a great tool that you just gave us.
Well, and so I mean, and really doesn't some of that just come down to our self-discipline and our self-control and we can have whatever background we have, we can have whatever history, we can have whatever, diagnosis, whatever it is, but really it comes down to how do I want to present in this moment with the person that I'm with. And I don't mean like present a fake you.
Yeah. I
mean, let's be true to who we want to be with this other person. And I think about it. So is that a matter of, that age old, saying of bite your tongue, or is it a matter of like, I can advise people sometimes that I want them to think about the faces that they tend to make. People know that they make certain expressions or faces. And what I say is, hey, I will actually take a mirror off. I have a little mirror in my office and I'll take a mirror off my wall and I'll actually go, okay, I want you to see this face. I want you to see that. And is that what you are non-verbally trying to convey? Is this what you want to be in that moment? Because sometimes we can have some looks that can kill, that we just aren't really wishing that we would put forth, and vice versa. But we have to remember that we're also we're our own policemen. We aren't called to be other people's policemen. I think about the idea that who is the judge? It isn't me. And, God is the only judge. I mean, that we're not going to be in judgment of somebody else, or the one, we're not going to sit and say, well, here's the laundry list of things I think you need to take care of in your life. And, oh, by the way, I'm perfect. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean? That we can do that, especially if we feel hurt or we feel offended or we're just having a rough time.
What I think I hear you saying is that, partly, one of the things is that the way that we come across has a big impact on our relationships.
It does.
Sometimes we're not being intentional about that. It's almost like,
we aren't.
I've heard you talk a lot about sort of alignment between our mind and our body.
Yeah.
And first of all, getting control of our mind means we're going to direct it, right? And then hopefully our body will come alongside our mind. And when we're in that, I've done this a million times, and it's funny how we let our guards down with the people we love the most, and so we can look like we're angry with people that we love the most, even though we're not. But we're not bringing our body in alignment with our mind in those moments because we're kind of just coasting.
Right.
So particularly probably in those intense moments or those really important moments, we got to make sure we're really thinking about.
Well, and
like that's a great idea, the mirror thing.
I mean, yeah, and consider the impact that you're having in that moment. Like, we need to bring our A game home.
That's a good way to say it.
Because our kids are watching. Our older parents are watching. Our spouses are watching. I mean, we have a tremendous amount of impact that we can have for the better or for the worse every day. And, it's interesting because there's some research that actually shows I think I might have mentioned this before, that I can't remember the research exactly, but it's in the first 8 minutes of your day, you can decide what your day is going to be like. Before you get out of bed, just think through your day and what you want today to be.
Yeah.
And that can kind of set the tone for the direction that your mind is going to go.
That's good.
In that day. Because, and then if you do that, it's like you've set your filter to perceive what comes at you in a way that is maybe less offended, less reactive, more proactive, more caring, more less selfish, that kind of thing. And I know that I've mentioned before, it's sort of like, who in the world would ever lay in bed and go, I want to be a willow tree today. I just want to swing my fronds in whatever direction whose ever emotional wind blows. Yikes.
Yeah.
That would be horrible.
Yeah.
So no, today I want to be in touch with my inner oak. I'm going to be solid. I'm just going to bring my best me to whatever goes on, because why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
That's great. Often the question I ask myself in the morning is, who needs me on my A game today? So I love that A game question.
Yeah.
But it does impact.
I like that.
It's
who
great.
Needs me on my A game
and I think
today?
that's part of what we're talking about is we have relationships, we care about people, but sometimes our emotions get the best of us, or our thoughts.
Yep.
And we end up being, a monster at the end of the day. And it's with the people that if we could pick, these are the people we'd want to make the best impact on.
Yes.
But work or whatever beats us up, and it's hard. But
so it's funny because
keeping that in your mind.
Yes.
Who needs me on my A game today?
Who needs me on my A game today? I love that. Well, and it's funny because just you saying that, Gabe. For those of you that don't know, Gabe is the lead pastor at Westside Community Church. He's also, I'm proud to be able to call him my friend. And he would be one of the people where I would say that I would be actively doing this. And the doing this is, I think we should all define the attributes of those that we love and that we respect the most in this world. And then do an exercise, write those down. What are the attributes of those people? And operationalize them. So what I mean by operationalize them is how can you take those attributes and bring them to action? Make them a part of your daily life, so that you can do daily. What do you need to do daily to be the person you want to be? The most, especially, whether in whatever environment, whether you're in the grocery store, or if you're with your child, if you're with your husband, if you're, at work, so what does it mean to bring my A game, and who needs it? Well, and some days, going back on that idea, Gabe, too, is the idea that maybe today I need my A game. I know that I'm depleted.
Yeah, sometimes I write my future self needs me to be on my A game today.
Nice.
Nice. But that's true. Sometimes it's like,
someday my present
self. I gotta be there for myself right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have surgery in 2 weeks on my my foot, and I'm like, I bet my present self will need my A game on those days, just so that I move through it fast, and so that And again, anybody who has something big coming up or big in their life, or they feel like they're wrestling some past demons, from family hurts or whatever it is. If you're struggling in your marriage, if you're struggling with a child, just what can you do to bring a positive you to today, to this moment, so that you can make a lasting impact, so you can win the war in your mind.
Yeah.
I think about it, and I think a lot of times when we are thinking about those relationships that we have in our life, and we need something, or we are feeling like we need to communicate something, a lot of times if we're not careful, we can do kind of what I would think of as a demand and push. I need this to happen now, and then I'm going to push it, versus an engage and woo.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense?
It's a totally different approach. Yeah.
It's a totally different approach.
Yeah.
And guess which one tends to get what you want more often?
Wow.
Yeah. How many times out of 100? Let's think maybe, 100 out of 100.
Right.
If you think about, and again, engage and woo versus demand and push. When we get defensive, if we're hurt and defensive, if we're guarded, we are going to demand and push. And we need to flip that script and engage and woo.
But it takes a little patience, doesn't it?
Oh, my gosh, it does.
You got to play the long game with that, right?
Absolutely. And like I said
pushes,
before,
that's short term.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking before about again, that it's like building a muscle, so you'll get faster at being able to monitor your thoughts and change them. You'll get faster at being able to do slow down. I'm going to engage in woo. What do I want to get at the end? And is what I do right now actually going to get me that, or push that goal further away? And then how do you do that? Like, sometimes you might even have to go like, hey, listen, hold on. I don't want to talk to you right now because I'm seeing where my thoughts are. They're in the cart and I'm going, this is not what I need to be doing right now. I'm going to go and I'm going to run around the block, or I'm going to do some stairs.
And it's easier said than done it doesn't come out that polished, at least whenever I've said it, in those moments, because you're flustered, like, I don't know. I can't talk right now.
Totally. But
it's probably the same impact as you just need a little breather, right? A little break.
Yes. Yeah. Well, or even a breather from work to home.
Yeah.
One of the things, it's like we get in our cars and then we're home. And maybe what we need to do before we walk in the door is go and do a brisk walk down the street and back. Because one of the things we don't think about is, so a lot of people take medications for mood and for anxiety and things like that. One of the things, a quick fix you can do before you're going to head in, and if you want to reframe your whole approach, is go and do a spurt of activity, because what you're doing in that is you are actually exciting the neurochemistry in your brain, the serotonin, the norepinephrine, the dopamine, which are those same things that we are actually taking medications for. So why not go and do the stairs? If you live in an apartment building, run up and down the stairs before you go and study for a test, or before you are going to ask mom and dad if you can do something, that they're going to go, hey, maybe, or if you're going to have that conversation with your wife, or if you're just simply going to come in from a long day and greet your family before you eat dinner, so that you bring your A game. I think I go back to it, Gabe, and I think like what we have to remember is that we hold the core, the delicate core of the people that we love in our hands. And I want people to think of it like it is the finest of glass that will, like, you look at it wrong and it breaks. And be honored by that and treasure that responsibility. Don't throw it away.
So good. Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome, Gabe.
I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope that was helpful. As Nancy mentioned, go back and listen to the previous episodes in this series if you haven't gotten them all. And thank you so much for joining us for this Midweek Motivation episode of the Westside podcast. I want to ask you two quick favors. One, would you subscribe and share so that more people can hear this helpful content? Secondly, would you pop by a Westside service on some weekend, maybe this weekend? You can do that either online at westsidecommunitychurch.com or right here at our campus in the Portland, Oregon area. But either way, we hope to see you soon, and we hope this has been helpful. Have a great week.